WWE Payback emanated last night from the Thunderdome inside the Amway Center on the WWE Network. What a show! What a show! This is going to be your Payback highlights and reactions video. I've had a couple of hours to digest what we saw last night, and to be honest, if I'm going to be brutally honest and completely frank, it was a short pay-per-view, 2.5 hours. That's not a bad thing at all. How often have we seen with WWE pay-per-views? Not so much in 2020 due to the pandemic, but in 2018, 2019, those pay-per-views that were 4, 5, sometimes even 6 hours long. How much was that? That was just too much. It was way too much, too difficult to watch, way too long. The attention span, I struggle with the attention span for a 3-hour Raw every Monday, so let alone a 5, 6 hour pay-per-view every month. So the fact that it was 2.5 hours, that was good. Pay-per-view doesn't need to be 6 hours, especially considering that we're 7 days removed from SummerSlam last weekend. Now, you got to give WWE credit here. We can criticize them to the moon and back. We do that. Social media is bad for doing that. WWE is an easy target, but they do bring it on themselves. But myself included, and I think a lot of us said, having a pay-per-view 7 days after SummerSlam, arguably the second biggest show of the year, having Payback 7 days after SummerSlam, a lot of people said, it's a stupid idea, it's a dumb idea. And from the outside, it absolutely looked like a dumb idea, to give yourself a bit of credit. But we were wrong. We were absolutely wrong. They nailed it. WWE absolutely nailed it. I thought it was a great show. There was and is reasoning for Payback taking place because of the angles that happened at SummerSlam, especially the Roman Reigns return and the Roman Reigns result at Payback last night. So there was a reasoning for the show. I thought at Payback, the matches were great. I thought the stories were great. A lot of newsworthy stuff happened and came out of the show. It flew by. It was 2.5 hours, but it felt like 5 minutes. It absolutely flew by. I loved it. I thought it was a great show. I thought SummerSlam was very, very good too. And I thought Payback was great. So since they've been in the Thunderdome, the quality of shows by WWE has actually been very, very good. You can't argue that. While we critique when things are bad with WWE, it's only fair that we must also praise when they are good. I thought the show was good, and I'm excited for what's next. And how often can you say that about WWE? How often can you say, I'm really excited for Raw this week, or I'm really excited for what's coming next on SmackDown, or I have no idea what's coming next. We've criticised WWE for their storylines being boring, to be frank, predictable, and all of that stuff. But now I'm excited. I'm excited to watch SmackDown on Friday to see what happens with Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman and The Fiend and Alexa Bliss. And I haven't been able to say that for a long, long time about WWE programming, so I have to give them credit for what I thought was another really good show. An interesting tidbit from this show is that we had no Retribution for the second show in a row. They weren't on SmackDown on Friday night. They weren't on Payback last night. Now, they weren't on SummerSlam either. All shows in which Roman Reigns was on. Some people are speculating, is this new heel Roman Reigns? He's with Paul Heyman. Is he the leader of Retribution? I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. It could certainly be a red herring. It could certainly be part of the plan. I don't know what the plans are for Retribution right now. I don't think, though, that Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman need that right now. If I'm truthfully honest, I do find it funny, though, that a stable called Retribution couldn't even appear at Payback. Retribution is another word for Payback. I'm just saying. So, as I mentioned, I thoroughly enjoyed Payback. Many people criticised WWE for booking 2 pay-per-views 7 days apart, and rightfully so, but in fairness to WWE, they absolutely nailed it. 2 great shows, a lot of great matches, a lot of logical storyline progression, and I'm excited to see where they go next. So that's a big praise from me, but I think they've absolutely earned it. Now, before we get into the matches, before we get into the breakdown of the matches, my opinions on the matches, my opinions on the angle, let's have a quick word from one of the supporters of WrestleNews 365. Support for Wrestle News 365 is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Now, Manscaped, for all of my UK fans out there, Manscaped just launched in the UK. Over here in the United Kingdom, we have gone for years and years and years without using the right tools for the job. But now you can be one of the first men in England to experience their life-changing product. But it's not just limited to all of the great fans over here in the UK. This offer goes worldwide, so all of my friends over in America and around the world that are listening to this offer still does apply for you. You can still use our code. But I've got to tell you a quick story first. Now, there have been so many times, right? I'm a guy. You gotta groom down there, fellas, right? That's the most important thing. You gotta keep yourself trimmed. You gotta keep yourself proper. And a lot of the time, I've been guilty of this, of using the wrong tools for the job. I've had incidences, I'm not afraid to say it, where things have been nicked, snagged, or in fact cut down there because I wasn't being careful enough and using the right equipment. Now that just shouldn't happen. That shouldn't happen. You don't want to be worrying about cutting yourself down there. Do you know how painful that is? I can tell you, it hurts quite a lot. And I wish and hope to God it never happens to me again, and it won't happen to me ever again because I'm using Manscaped products. That's why Manscaped has redesigned the electric trimmer. The Manscaped engineering team has perfected the greatest ball hair trimmer ever created. Big statement, but it's absolutely true. They have just released the new and improved Lawnmower 3.0 in the UK. It's also available around the world as well. Their third generation trimmer features a cutting edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents. So those cuts and snags that I was telling you about before are a thing of the past. And let me tell you, when I tell you this is premium, I mean premium. The battery will last up to 90 minutes so you can get a longer, perfect shave. And not only that, you don't want to be cutting yourself and trimming yourself all over the bathroom, getting hair all over the place. That's just disgusting. The lawnmower has a waterproof technology that allows you to groom in the shower, so no more mess. And one of the coolest features, one of my favorite features about the lawnmower is the LED light, which illuminates grooming areas for a closer and more precise trimming experience. So you can shave longer, you can shave more precisely, and you can shave in the shower. What more do I need to tell you? They've also upgraded to a 7,000 RPM motor with quiet stroke technology, and let's not forget about the charging stand. You can show off your mower loud and proud because this intelligently designed stand is a convenient charging dock powered by USB. So, if you are listening to me speak right now, I want you to experience it firsthand for yourself. Let's get that bush to tush clean, and you can get 20% off and free shipping. Yeah, you heard me right there. 20% off and free shipping. All you have to do is use the code 365wrestle at manscaped.com. Make your testies their besties. That's 20% off and free shipping. Not only are you getting 20% off, you're getting free shipping as well with the code 365wrestle at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com, and use the code 365wrestle. Your balls will thank you. Now, on the kickoff show, we had the Riot Squad going up against the ICONICS. Now, the ICONICS have been stating that Liv Morgan can't trust Ruby Riott. Liv Morgan hit the ropes and Ruby Riott hit a blind tag. So they were playing up the doubt and apprehension between Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott in this match. That's essentially the whole gist of this match. Billie Kay hit the Shades of Kay to Ruby Riott on the outside of the ring. Billie Kay and Peyton Royce in this match just essentially tried to verbally abuse Liv Morgan, that Ruby Riott doesn't care about her. Liv Morgan starts shouting at them, saying, "Oh, shut up." I was thinking during this, why do the ICONICS care so much? It's really none of their business. I guess that's heels being heels. But that was the real thing that stood out to me here. Is if you're the ICONICS, why do you care so much about these two random people? Very strange. I guess it's a tag team in the women's tag team division. They don't want competition, right? Maybe you could say it's that. So Liv Morgan is hit off the apron. Billie Kay tries to convince that to Liv Morgan that Ruby Riott was the one that hit her off the apron, but of course it wasn't. So Ruby Riott has nobody to tag. Liv Morgan teases leaving. She looks conflicted. She's standing on the outside of the ring. Liv Morgan decides that she can believe and trust Ruby Riott and tags in. You have Tom Phillips on commentary saying, "What a big mental hurdle that was for Liv Morgan there." Really? Really, was it? Oh, BS. Come on. trust doesn't exist in professional wrestling, okay? How many times in the history of pro wrestling have we seen people... Look at Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. They were beating the hell out of each other. Someone laughed at them, and then suddenly they're tag team champions. So get over, oh, what a big mental hurdle this was. What a load of rubbish. So Liv Morgan does tag in. She does a stomp on Peyton Royce. Peyton Royce did an unbelievable sell job during this. She sold her shoulder, rather. And I was convinced it was legitimately hurt. It wasn't. It was just a great sell job. So fair play to Peyton Royce. The Iconics hit the Deja Vu, but Liv Morgan breaks up the count on Ruby Riott. Liv Morgan drags Ruby Riott to the corner, tags herself in, which I hate. That isn't a legal tag. I mean, I guess I'm being a stickler there, but it's not a legal tag. Liv Morgan hits Oblivion on Peyton Royce. Liv hits the double knees, and Ruby Riott hits the Riott kick to Billie Kay for the victory, so the Riott squad win that one. Now, after the match, you had Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott do a promo with a kickoff show panel. JBL was there, Booker T that was there, Charlie Caruso, you know, Pete Rosenberg there as well. Yeah, they have them say, this is the beginning. This is the absolute beginning. Ruby Riott says, I'm sorry to Liv Morgan. She says, this is the beginning for them. They talk about living to riot. I live to riot. I riot to live. It was a really weird promo. I thought it was really cheesy and really corny. They were really blown up. And I hate to say, like, oh, they were so out of breath. I mean, they just wrestled a match. So look at me. I'm sitting here with my microphone. How should I say to people about being out of breath and anything like that? That's a load of rubbish. But the promo itself was very strange, very cheesy. I'm happy for Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott to be a tag team again. I think the women's tag team division needs more legitimate tag teams, not just two superstars thrown together, as we've got the tag team champions right now. It is a bugbear of mine. But the match I thought was fine. The promo, I didn't do it for me, but it was a fine way to open up the kickoff show. So we had Payback open, and the first match was the United States Championship on the line. Apollo Crews defending against Bobby Lashley. Now, we had a promo by MVP before the match. It was in the back. It was one of those picture-in-picture promos that they do. And I thought there was a great line in there that MVP said. He said, last week you got lucky, this week you got Lashley, which I thought was a great line. MVP, he's just so great as a mouthpiece, isn't he? He's fantastic at his job. Now, you had MVP and Shelton Benjamin sitting at ringside in the chairs by the announce table. Lashley hit a Uranagi, dropping Apollo Crews across the top rope, which I thought was just an absolutely awesome spot. Lashley hits a Dominator, but Apollo Crews kicks out at 2. Lashley, when I was looking at this match, his booking has just been fantastic, hasn't it? Ever since he came back in 2018, he's been doing dumb stuff, and this match was the personification of his great booking this year, since he paired up with MVP and got rid of the whole disastrous Rusev, Lana, Lashley stupid angle. It's just been fantastic. So Apollo Crews does his comeback, hits an Arn Anderson-style spinebuster, standing moonsault for a 2 count. Apollo Crews goes for a military press. Lashley goes to lock in the full Nelson. Apollo Crews responds with 2 German suplexes, hits a frog splash for a 2 count, but then Bobby Lashley locks in the full Lashley, which is what they're calling Bobby Lashley's full Nelson. Locks it in like a Kurt Angle style. You know when Kurt Angle grapevine the leg and used the ankle lock? It was a similar way to how he sort of grapevined Apollo Crews' entire body when he had the full Lashley in. So Apollo Crews, I don't know if he gives out, passes out, but whatever, the referee rings the bell, and we've got a new WWE United States Champion in Bobby Lashley. Post-match, MVP gets a photographer. They pose for photos. They do a kind of like a photography-style screen grab on the screen. So as they take the picture, a picture appears on the screen, which I thought was pretty cool. Now, after the match, Apollo Crews attacks the Hurt Business. He escapes and shouts up the ramp, I'm going to get my title back. I hate when babyfaces do this. I really, really do. I hate when babyfaces... Look, he lost the match fair and square there. There was no interference by MVP and Shelton Benjamin there. There was nothing. There was no interference by MVP, Shelton Benjamin. They did nothing wrong. Apollo Crews got beaten by the better man. Full Lashley locked on. Apollo Crews gave up, passed out, whatever. But he lost his title fair and square. You've got Bobby Lashley and the Hurt Business posing after the match with photographers, which is their right. I mean, they won the match. And Apollo Crews starts attacking them. I mean, sour grapes. He just comes across as a bad loser. Every time I see a babyface do this, and it happens quite a lot in WWE. It used to happen all the time. You remember when Sheamus was the world champion back in 2012, that period of time? He would come across as like the biggest bully ever. But because he was doing these things to heels, he's the babyface, right? Whenever I see anything like this, I just go, Apollo, you just look like the biggest heel. You look like a bad loser. How is that a babyface? Now, in terms of the match result, good for Lashley, right move. As I mentioned, Bobby Lashley has been booked great since he's been paired with MVP. I thought this was the match that should have happened at SummerSlam, but we got it 7 days later. It's not the end of the world. Bobby Lashley deserves to be United States Champion. I think he's a credible United States Champion. I think MVP's work as a mouthpiece has been very, very good. I like Shelton Benjamin being part of the group as well. It gives them something to do, something credible to do. Apollo Crews as United States Champion, I thought he did a fine job. I predicted that Bobby Lashley was going to win Payback, but I think Apollo Crews did a good job as United States Champion. Compared to where he was this time last year, it's night and day. And I think he has improved a lot recently. I think his promos have got better. He's always been very good in the ring. The crucial thing now for Apollo Crews is, okay, what do you do after the United States Championship run? Does he fall back into oblivion again and back to main event and the mid-card? Or has this United States Championship run been worth something, and can he progress further from here? So that's the interesting thing, I think, coming out of this one. But the match itself was fine. As openers go, it was a fine opener, enjoyable. But the most enjoyable thing for me was Bobby Lashley becoming United States Champion. I think that's absolutely the right move here. Now, after the match, we had Caleb Braxton backstage. He's waiting outside the dreaded Roman Reigns dressing room. We saw Adam Pearce struggle so much on Friday Night SmackDown to get into his dressing room. But Paul Heyman is there. Paul Heyman says he doesn't have to tell her his resume. She knows who he is. He says, you can ask me anything. Caleb Braxton says, will Roman Reigns sign the contract? Remember, Roman Reigns hadn't signed the contract on SmackDown for Payback. Now, Paul Heyman says Roman Reigns said he will sign the contract, so he believes that he will. Kayla asks if she can go inside the dressing room. Paul Heyman says no. That was the end of the segment. So this was what they were teasing throughout the entire show here, really. It was the same thing they were teasing on SmackDown. Is Roman Reigns even going to be part of the main event? We all knew that Roman Reigns was going to be part of the main event. This was just to add a little bit of drama, make sure the story was about Roman Reigns and he was part of the focus of this. And it was just these little tiny details, I suppose, to ensure that we knew that Roman Reigns is a heel. A babyface signed the contract, doesn't even read it. He's an idiot. A heel takes his time, looks at the details, gets what he wants, acts like a big shot, acts like a star. So that was the whole purpose of this whole contract fiasco here when it comes to Roman Reigns, Paul Heyman, and the WWE Universal Championship. Now, this wasn't the only backstage promo before our next match. We had Keith Lee. He's getting ready for his match later on in the evening against Randy Orton. Then he's interrupted by none other than Hall of Famer. I guess he's not technically a Hall of Famer because the Hall of Fame hasn't happened yet, but Hall of Fame inductee, soon to be Hall of Famer, whatever. Former WWE champion JBL, John Bradshaw Layfield. He comes up to Keith Lee, says he's enjoyed watching Keith Lee. Now, JBL says he has a couple of hedge funds, only $1 million to get in. Keith Lee says, well, I don't have those kind of resources. But JBL says, well, if you win tonight's match, you'll be on your way. But he says, it's a lot of pressure. So if you lose, don't worry about it. It's only Randy Orton. He's one of the greatest ever. I enjoyed it. I thought the whole hedge fund buying in thing was a bit strange, but I enjoyed it. I'm down for JBL to be a regular character on TV again. I don't want him on commentary. I think we've had enough of JBL on commentary, and I'm fine with the commentary teams in WWE right now, and I don't think JBL at this point in his career needs to be on commentary again. We've heard enough of it. But a character? Why not? Why not? I think JBL as a character in a promo, look, you can say what you want about JBL and his personality and his antics backstage to people in the company. I know I have, and I don't approve of it. In terms of we're going to judge him as an on-screen character, a promo, JBL is one of the best. He absolutely is. We've seen in 2020 with the likes of MVP and in AEW when you've got Arn Anderson, Jake the Snake Roberts, Tully Blanchard, etc. Managers, mouthpieces. Why not? Why not? I'd be down for that. Do I think JBL is going to pair off with Keith Lee? I doubt it, but who knows? Who knows? I'm down for having JBL back on screen as a regular character. Wouldn't bother me in the slightest. I think he would add to the television product if I'm honest. So I would be interested in seeing JBL be back on camera. So next up, we had Sheamus versus Big E. Before the match, we had another backstage promo by Sheamus, picture-in-picture, I believe. Sheamus was dressed in that ridiculous hat and jacket deal. He looks like an idiot. I mean, he looks ridiculous. He looks worse than Dean Ambrose wearing a gas mask or anything like that. It's another one of those just bizarre attires. I would be stunned. I would be absolutely stunned if I found out that this new attire that Sheamus is walking around in is his idea. I cannot believe for a second that Sheamus thinks that that's good. It seems very, very Vince McMahon, doesn't it? Oh, this is great. It's going to get you so much heat. No, it's going to make you look like an idiot. So he looks like an absolute idiot. Big E comes out. He's all intense. He's fired up. We have a very, very physical match here. Big E does his spear through the ropes to the outside, which just scares the hell out of me. I really wish he wouldn't do it every time, because he nearly dies. He nearly dies every time he does it. I am stunned. At this point in his career, he hasn't hurt himself to it. That he hasn't had a separated shoulder, broken collarbone, something, because every time he does it, absolutely terrifies me. And he can't do that move forever. He just can't. I don't want to sound like one of those old timers of, you got to slow down, kid. Everyone's got a bump counter. But every time I see it, it's just absolutely terrifying. And it gets to the point now that when you see him set up for it, you start going, oh my God, he's going to do the spear through the ropes. Don't die. Please don't die. Now, they piped in the New Day Rocks chant, which I thought was pretty cool. I saw a couple of tweets criticizing that. Oh, they only piped it in for a few seconds. What more do you want? There isn't actually people there. They're trying their best to pump in some atmosphere here. Give them some credit. Now, Sheamus locks in a heel hook by countering the big ending, which I thought was quite nice. Big E, though, counters when Sheamus goes for the bro kick into the big ending for the victory. I enjoyed this match. I really enjoyed it. After the match, Big E, he's super intense. He's super fired up. He goes to Corey Graves. He says, preach to the people that I'm ready. He was serious. He was intense. Big E is just money, isn't he? He's absolute money. I thought it was a great match. I thought it was a great victory for Big E. It builds up and continues to build up Big E in this singles run that he's having right now in WWE on SmackDown. I've been saying it for a long time. A lot of people have been saying it for a long time. Big E is a future world champion waiting to happen. He absolutely is. It's just a case of, is he going to be booked correctly? What's his storylines going to be? Is he ever going to break off from the New Day? Is he ever going to drop the comedy? And that's what this was kind of about. This little storyline was about Big E. You don't take things seriously. The New Day, they're all about having a good time and comedy. And he showed here, look, I can be intense. And everyone knows Big E can be intense. Look at his work in NXT. He was one of the most intense people ever. But he's showing different facets of the character, which is really important. He can do comedy. He can do intensity. He can do serious. Big E can do everything. The guy is nearly 300 pounds, and he bounces around the ring like a cruiserweight as well. He's one of the strongest people on the WWE roster. He's a fantastic promo. He's a future world champion. So I thought this match was just another step in continuing to build up Big E as someone credible. And, I think Big E... Do I think he's going to be Universal Champion in the next year? I have no idea. Things can change. Things can happen. I think in this trajectory, if they book him correctly, we saw Roman Reigns tonight. I'd love to see a Roman Reigns versus Big E feud. I think that would be absolute money, and I think the fans would love it too. I think he's just that good. So this was a enjoyable match. I enjoyed it, and the thing I enjoyed the most was the continued development of Big E in his singles run. So we go from the Big E Sheamus match to an interview backstage with Matt Riddle. We had Alicia Ashton, the new backstage interviewer, I guess, for SmackDown. Now, she brings up a tweet that King Corbin said about Matt Riddle. Now, I've got the tweet in front of me. This is what Baron Corbin tweeted out. He said, quote, "Tonight, I prove that Matt Riddle is a failure in a WWE ring. By the way, ... he's already proving that he's a failure at home. Hashtag WWE Payback." Matt Riddle had a smile on his face. He dropped into very, very seriousness. He left, made a beeline for the ring, and we saw serious Matt Riddle. I'd like to say I'm surprised. I would like to say that I'm surprised and I'm horrified, but this is the same company that mere weeks ago, for months, used a storyline about someone's personal drug addiction and alcoholism for their financial gain. This is... Do you want to go back in WWE's bad taste throughout the history? I don't think you need to. But again, what? They're using the storyline that Matt Riddle has had an affair and he's a bad husband at home and a bad father at home. Now, for those that are not aware, that is true. Matt Riddle did have an affair on his wife. Now, how did we find out that Matt Riddle had an affair on his wife? Well, they only found out that due to allegations. Yes, very serious allegations. So WWE is using a true story that was only made public due to a sexual assault allegation in their storyline. Let that sink in. Matt Riddle was accused of sexual assault, part of the speaking out movement, and it led out that the person that had accused him of this, Matt Riddle had an affair with. He had cheated on his wife, the wife he's got 3 kids with, and they're using this in a backstage promo at Payback. What? And again, I'm sure when I say this, I'll get the same responses because I got it last night when I mentioned it on Twitter. Well, they wouldn't do it if Matt Riddle wasn't cool with it. Same way they said about Jeff Hardy. Well, I'm sure Jeff Hardy's fine with it. So what does it matter? Oh, sure. I'm sure the whole Riddle family are cool with it too. Seriously, it's stupid. It's absolutely stupid. There is no need for it. This storyline between King Corbin and Matt Riddle certainly isn't worth it. Not that it ever would be, but you can't even make the justification of, well, it's a big feud, it's got a lot of heat behind it. It's Matt Riddle versus King Corbin. No one cares about this dumb storyline. You don't need to bring up stuff that is very serious and very raw. It's just, I thought it was real bad taste, and just so unnecessary. So we have the match. King Corbin makes his entrance. He's been carried to the ring once again. Matt Riddle comes out and he's making his entrance. He has his pyro go off in the ring as he kicks off his flip-flops. But Matt Riddle gets attacked straight away by King Corbin. You had Matt Riddle lock in a sleeper hold on King Corbin. Corbin gets out, but Riddle plays possum, locks it back in. Corbin goes for his out of the ring and round the corner post clothesline, but gets a nice kick in the head by Matt Riddle. Corbin hits the deep 6 on Matt Riddle. But then Matt Riddle locks in a triangle choke, goes to do the bro to sleep, hits King Corbin, and then hits the floating bro by Matt Riddle for the victory. I thought the ending was very, very flat on this one. Very flat. And the match was okay at best. You had Michael Cole going crazy on commentary. What an upset. What an upset by Matt Riddle. Not really. You're hyping up this guy, this new acquisition to the SmackDown roster. You're hyping him up as a star. King Corbin, what's King Corbin done in WWE? Is he a former world champion? No. Yeah, he won the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal and a Money in the Bank and the King of the Ring. Yes, they are accolades. But he's lost to Roman Reigns in his last... Look at his last few feuds. He's lost to Roman Reigns, he's lost to Elias, and now he's lost to Riddle. He's a loser. So how is this an upset? You've got someone that comes in from NXT and has continuously won, apart from facing AJ Styles, but he's won the majority of the time. He's facing someone on SmackDown that is established, but he's been losing all the time recently. How is that an upset? No sense. The match itself I thought was okay. It had some nice spots, but I said it in the preview and predictions. I don't care for this storyline. I just don't. What even was the promo line for then? Nothing. Because the match didn't necessitate it. It wasn't worth it. And every time they do stuff like this, I hear Triple H's comments in my head. We take every allegation very, very seriously. So seriously that we'll put it into our promos for our storylines because our creative team can't come up with anything better. Yeah, great. So after the match, Matt Riddle's backstage. He's going to be interviewed once again. He said, finally, if King Corbin is done, I can move on. Of course, that is the biggest load of BS because King Corbin attacks him from behind backstage, beats the hell out of him. And you have Michael Cole and Corey Graves on commentary say, well, I don't think this is the last we've seen of King Corbin and Matt Riddle in a WWE ring. Ugh. I mean, I guess it wouldn't be a Baron Corbin storyline if it didn't last 3-4 months too long. I just don't care for it. As soon as I had the promo, I didn't care for it coming into this, but as soon as I had the promo line that they put the personal stuff in there, I didn't care for it, and I don't care for it now. So, not for me. Like I said, the match itself was fine, but I'd rather Matt Riddle move on and do something different if I'm truthfully and brutally honest. So next up, we have the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships on the line. The Women's Tag Team Champions Bayley and Sasha Banks defending against the makeshift team, the frenemies, the guys that hate each other and have just been put together, of Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. Now, during Bayley's entrance, Bayley put a role model t-shirt on the head of Michael Cole, which I enjoyed immensely. It's a throwback to The Rock. You remember The Rock would do those backstage promos on Monday Night Raw, and he would just put his t-shirt over the head of Michael Cole. So I enjoyed that a lot. Now, Nia Jax makes her entrance, and then Shayna Baszler makes her entrance. And as soon as Shayna Baszler's entrance hit, Nia Jax looks really pissed off, which was very confusing. Like Nia Jax wasn't expecting her, she's coming out. She's your partner. You kind of realise you were teaming with her, don't you? Otherwise, what is going on in Nia Jax's head? So Nia Jax gets knocked off the apron as Bayley sends Shayna Baszler into her. They kind of played up they're not on the same page. They don't like each other. They're only teaming together because they don't like Bayley and Banks' deal. Sasha Banks goes for the Three Amigos, tags in Bayley, and they do a double back suplex to Nia, which looked quite nasty. Nia Jax used Sasha Banks to break up a pinfall, and then Nia Jax had Sasha Banks in a kind of powerbomb position, and then just slammed Sasha Banks a billion times into the barricade, and it looked very, very stiff. Very, very stiff. Sasha Banks and Bayley, though, they managed to come back from this. They work over Nia, work over her knee. And I don't want to be that person, I don't want to jump on the Nia Jax is dangerous in the ring. She's not safe. She's this, she's that. But sometimes you watch Nia Jax, and after all of these incidents, and I've spoken about these incidents here on the channel, I cringe. I cringe sometimes when I watch Nia Jax in the ring because she is stiff, and I don't mind people that are stiff in the ring. If anything, I like it because I think it makes it look more real. Stiff isn't always a bad thing. My thing with Nia Jax, and this is exactly what I've said previously on the channel, I just don't know that she knows her own strength. I don't think she knows her own strength. I really don't. So she set all kinds of powerlifting and weightlifting records when she was at the WWE PC. They do those combine things. And she set all kinds of records. But I think she's just a lot stronger than a lot of the other females in the ring. And she doesn't know her own strength. So when she throws someone into a barricade, she throws them in. And it's painful. And it looks rough. That's my perception of what Nia Jax does in the ring. And it doesn't always pay off. So Nia Jax picks up Sasha Banks for the Samoan drop. She uses Sasha Banks as a weapon to hit Bayley and then hits the Samoan drop. She makes the tag to Shayna Baszler. Shayna Baszler hits a couple of gut-wrench suplexes on Sasha Banks and Bayley. Nia Jax goes for a power bomb, but Sasha Banks rolled through into a face buster. Nia sounds it like she's got a broken nose, which I thought was quite good. Bayley hits her elbow drop, frog splash by Sasha Banks. Bayley to belly to Shayna Baszler, but Nia Jax manages to kick out up two. This is where the match really picked up, and it got very, very good. Really good. So there's a double back body drop to Nia Jax by Banks and Bayley, which I thought looked good as well. But we go into our finish, which was just absolutely brilliant. A fantastic finish of this match. Shayna Baszler ties up Sasha Banks in a Muta lock. She then grabs Bayley in the Kirifuda clutch. Baszler then uses Sasha Banks' arm to her advantage, putting it under Bayley's chin. Bayley taps out, and we have new Women's Tag Team Champions. What a great finish. Amazing finish, and a great match. You have to give them credit. They started off a bit slowly, but that finish and the ending sequence, like I said, when they had the near falls on Nia Jax and the near falls on Shayna Baszler, I thought was absolute brilliant. And then that finish is so unique. I haven't seen that before. It was brilliant. It was an absolute brilliant finish. After the match, Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax hug. They break it up very quickly. Corey Graves is saying on commentary, now it's no bounce Banks. So it's just a matter of time before Bayley and Sasha Banks split up. Nia Jax was going, so over the top, celebrating at this point. She's dancing around. She's looking into the camera. I was waiting for her to say, I'm going to Disneyland, because that's essentially how over the top it was. She doesn't look like a heel, but arguably Nia Jax's celebration is the best thing she's ever done inside of a WWE ring. I was entertained by it. I thought it was very good. And for me, that finish with Shayna Baszler, that's how you book Shayna Baszler on the main roster. That's how you book Shayna Baszler. That's how you make her look like a star. You don't have Shayna Baszler coming out biting people. You don't have her coming out and jobbing to everyone. You don't have her just sitting at home because you have nothing for her on TV. You have Shayna Baszler beating the hell out of people. You have Shayna Baszler using her MMA, catch wrestling background, submission background. I thought the ending was brilliant. Absolute brilliance. And the little subtle detail of not only did Shayna Baszler beat both of them by themselves, that furthers the Nia Jax Shayna Baszler storyline, because she can say, well, I did it all by myself. I tapped them both out. But on the Bayley Sasha Banks side of things, technically, it was Sasha Banks who was the one that tapped out Bayley, right? Because Sasha Banks, her arm was under the chin of Bayley. So just a brilliant, brilliant finish. Whoever came up with that, absolutely superb. But I thought it was a hell of a match. I really did. Hell of a tag team match. Opens up a lot of options too. I really want Shayna Baszler to go back to NXT now because, of course, Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax can appear on Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. So I want Shayna Baszler to show up in NXT and just go like, miss me? I'm back. It also does mean that Nia Jax can appear on Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, which I'm sure the internet fan base will love. I'm sure they'll be so happy to see Nia Jax on TV potentially 7 hours a week. I'm sure that's what everyone's been crying out for, right? More Nia Jax. But no, joking aside, thought the match was very, very good. It furthers the Bayley-Sasha Banks story. I thought that Bayley and Banks would drop the titles here anyway, and they have. They've had a great run. Their run as tag team champions was fantastic. Their appearances on Raw, SmackDown, and NXT during the pandemic, during those Performance Center shows, were superb. And I'm interested to see what happens with Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. I'm happy to see Shayna Baszler get some success on the main roster. Again, that's how you book her. I thought that's the best that she's looked, and great match. That's all I can really say about that one. So next we had a match that a lot of people were looking forward to. Keith Lee going up against Randy Orton. Now, Keith Lee makes his entrance first. His music, a little bit of an update here. I know a lot of people were really interested in this. His music, it still absolutely sucks. It's terrible. They didn't change it. It's awful. It's still absolutely awful. They have the Keith Lee intro that they had in NXT, and you think, oh, we're going to get Keith Lee's entrance music. No, it's just terrible. It's the worst generic kind of music ever, and I don't want to sound over dramatic and over the top, but it is terrible. It is terrible, and I know people respond to that were saying, wow, it's what happens in the ring that matters. BS. It's the whole package that matters. It's always been the whole package that matters. Are you telling me The Rock or Steve Austin or Hulk Hogan or John Cena isn't as popular when they have their music? Of course it's not. The entrance is so important. Look at The Undertaker. You're telling me that Steve Austin wouldn't get the amazing pops without the glass shatter? It adds to the character. So his music still sucks, Keith Lee. It's still terrible. To me, what it sounds like is whenever you watch an episode of, say, Raw, right, on the WWE Network from the 90s or in the 2000s or wherever, and WWE doesn't have the rights to play the music. So for like Hulk Hogan, when he comes out to Jimi Hendrix Voodoo Child, and they just have to play over it or overdub it with some generic rock music, that's what it sounds like. But this is live. This is real life. They don't have to overdub it. It's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. It sounds terrible. Now, Keith Lee did have a slight ring attire change. Instead of wearing the shorts that look like a dress, he's not wearing that anymore. He's got the tights back on, which is a positive. He's still wearing that ridiculous skin-tight shirt, though, because I guess Vince McMahon is so offended that Keith Lee doesn't have abs. But we'll forgo that. Randy Orton starts off with some chops on Keith Lee. He chopped Keith Lee 3 times that my chest hurt. My, oh my. These were chops that Walter in NXT UK would be proud of. These were brutal. Absolutely brutal. Keith Lee then, he pounces Randy Orton to the outside of the ring. Randy Orton had actually hit the backdrop to the announce table earlier on. Keith Lee does the same for revenge. As Keith Lee's getting back in the ring, Randy Orton hits him with the dropping DDT. He sets up the RKO, Randy Orton. He does his RKO pose. Randy Orton goes for an RKO. Keith Lee counters into a Spirit Bomb. Spirit Bombs Randy Orton nearly through the canvas. Randy Orton sells it like $1 million. 1, 2, 3. Keith Lee pins Randy Orton clean. Wow. Now, that might seem very brief. how I've described that match, but it really was that quick. It was not long at all. Very, very, very short. But wow, absolutely clean victory by Keith Lee. If you checked out our predictions or preview video, I didn't see this coming. My worry with this one was WWE, they've booked themselves into a corner. Neither guy needs to lose, right? Randy Orton lost at SummerSlam. Should he lose here? Probably not. Keith Lee, it's only his second match on Monday Night Raw. The first match, I don't care if he says it was a no contest. He lost by DQ to Randy Orton on Raw. He couldn't lose here, and he didn't. But not only did he not beat Randy Orton, he beat him clean in the middle of the ring. Now, we can talk about bad music. I just did. We can talk about bad ring gear. I did. But that's a statement. That is an absolute statement. Keith Lee, with that victory, is a main event player in WWE. Raw have just got themselves a main event player. And it was absolutely the right call. It was absolutely the right call here. Now, when you look at the losses, the back-to-back losses hurt Randy Orton. You know what? Maybe they do. Maybe they do. But the more I thought about it, Randy Orton at this point in his career, he's what, a 14-time WWE World Heavyweight Champion. Randy Orton's bulletproof. A job, a loss to Randy Orton, realistically doesn't actually hurt him. Randy Orton will always be worthy of a WWE Championship match. Just because he lost to Keith Lee here, does that mean he's not going to challenge Drew McIntyre for the WWE Championship and not seem credible? Absolutely not. Randy Orton is always credible. He's a 14-time world champion. He's done it all in WWE. He's been in the company for 18 years. He's the biggest and best heel in WWE, and in my opinion, in the pro wrestling business right now. A loss doesn't really hurt Randy Orton. He's bulletproof. But a loss here would have really hurt Keith Lee, and he wouldn't have seemed credible. Keith Lee had to win this match to be a credible superstar, and he did, emphatically. Absolutely the right call. Absolutely the right call. Now, I saw some tweets from some people, the Blue Tick Parade, on social media saying the only people that are going to ruin Keith Lee are the fans. And I disagree there. I absolutely disagree. I hate this idea and this narrative that by people complaining about the changes that they've made to Keith Lee, we're the ones that are jeopardizing Keith Lee. Well, that's not true. It really isn't. The reason people complained about Keith Lee on Monday Night Raw this past week is because they changed things that didn't need to be changed. That was it. That was it. Keep Keith Lee how he was. Have the same entrance music. Have the same ring gear. People really wouldn't have cared. People wouldn't have been complaining, saying, why is he wearing a dress? Why is he coming out to terrible entrance music? That's all people want. You see things with Matt Riddle. They have to change things on Raw and SmackDown. And I've gone into detail, and I've said that I don't think NXT works because Vince McMahon changes things. So that whole opinion there, I just disagreed with completely. Not that it matters. Now, the match itself, was the match great? It wasn't, because it didn't have enough time to be great, really. It was quick, and in some parts it was a little bit clunky, but it doesn't matter. No one even remembers the match, and it only happened 24 hours ago. What people remember is that Keith Lee, in his pay-per-view debut singles match, Keith Lee defeated Randy Orton clean in the middle of the ring. 14-time world champion Randy Orton, Keith Lee beat him with ease. That's what people remember. It was the right call. It was the right booking decision. WWE made themselves a main event player last night. Keith Lee, that's how you book him. I mentioned about Shayna Baszler before. That's how you book her on the main roster. That's how you book Keith Lee. So I thought it was a tremendous decision, and I'm fascinated to see Keith Lee going forward on Raw. Vince McMahon, by all accounts, is a big fan. He wants to push Keith Lee to the moon. He's wanted to get his hands on Keith Lee for a long time, going back to Survivor Series. Right, there were those reports after that interaction with Keith Lee and Roman Reigns at Survivor Series that Vince McMahon had fallen in love with Keith Lee, and it hasn't changed yet. You can tell Vince McMahon is a huge fan, and like I said in my previous videos about Keith Lee, if Vince McMahon's into you, then you'll get a million chances, and you will get pushed to the moon. If Vince is invested in you, that's all you need. That's all you need, and it proved it last night. So, right call, and I'm fascinated to see what happens with Keith Lee going forward. Now, after the match, we had another backstage segment with Paul Heyman and Kayla Braxton. Once again, she comes up to him. Paul has Roman Reigns sign the contract. Paul Heyman says once again, Roman Reigns told everyone he'll win the title, he'll wreck everyone and leave and do everything that he said he's going to do. So believe that. So they're just teasing up once again. Is Roman going to sign the contract? It was the narrative of the show. I had no problem with it. So next up, we had the tag team match between Seth Rollins and Murphy going up against Rey Mysterio and Dominic Mysterio. So the match started off hot. We had Dominic Mysterio going after Seth Rollins and Murphy earlier on. Dominic Mysterio, he's brilliant. I lauded his appearance at SummerSlam and Raw. I mentioned how great he is on the Payback preview show we did. Dominic Mysterio, he's just going to be so good. He's going to be a great babyface. Now, Seth Rollins, this was a really fun spot. Seth Rollins did the spot where he slides Mysterio under the bottom rope to the outside of the ring, but Buddy Murphy was waiting there with his knees up, and Rey Mysterio went into his knees, which I thought was a really cool spot. Seth Rollins hits the Falcon Arrow to Dominic for a 2 count. Rollins and Murphy, as you would expect, work over Dominic for the majority of this match. Rey Mysterio gets the tag, he goes for the hot comeback. Rey goes for the 619, Rollins ducks. Rey rolls through to a kick to the head of Seth Rollins for a 2 count. It's broken up by Murphy. Dominic hits a tornado spike DDT to Murphy. Murphy can sell a DDT, by the way. He does the great spike on the top of his head. Love that. Sling blade, easy for me to say. Sling blade to Dominic Mysterio by Seth Rollins. Rey goes for a crossbody, but Seth Rollins gets the knees up. Now, Seth Rollins tells Murphy to kick Rey Mysterio in the head as he goes to powerbomb Rey Mysterio into the corner, but Rey rolls through and Murphy accidentally kicks Seth Rollins in the head. Rollins is then on the outside. Dominic Mysterio hits Murphy with a 619 and a frog splash for the victory. I thought this was a great match. Again, I thought this was a great match. And I've been very, very critical about the tag team scene in WWE. I think on Raw and I think on SmackDown, I think the tag divisions are crap, to be honest, to put it nicely. And it's the same with NXT. They lack tag teams. They lack focus. Make Rey Mysterio and Dominic Mysterio the tag team champions. Honestly, do it. I thought Dominic Mysterio versus Seth Rollins at SummerSlam was great. I thought the tag team match tonight was great. I really enjoyed the match. I really enjoyed watching Dominic Mysterio work. As I mentioned, I think Dominic Mysterio, he's going to be a big babyface star. And the reason why I think he's going to be a big babyface star is because Dominic Mysterio can sell. His selling ability is second to none. It really is that good. It really is that good. So I think he's going to be a big star. I think in all of the matches he's had now, all 3 of them, I think he's done absolutely tremendous. I enjoyed the match. Some people think this feud has gone on too long, and it probably has, but I've enjoyed the majority of it. Obviously, could have done without the eye for an eye deal, but I think it's been good. I've enjoyed it. Now, tonight on Raw, Rey Mysterio will face Seth Rollins. They're saying this is going to be the end of the Seth Rollins-Rey Mysterio feud, Seth Rollins versus the Mysterio family feud, and I hope so. I think it should end now. It's gone on long enough. It's run its course. SummerSlam has come and gone. We're moving into the fall now. Let's do something different. So I think that feud should and will end tonight on Raw. But I thought this was very good. We had the miscommunication here between Seth Rollins and Murphy. There have been reports that we're going to have a Seth Rollins versus Murphy feud soon. So I think last night's miscommunication is the start of that. And as I mentioned, if Seth Rollins goes off to feud with Murphy, and I think that leaves Dominic Mysterio and Rey Mysterio needing something to do, go after the tag team championships. Have a feud with the Street Profits. Do a whole story of father and son tag team champions. Why not? How often do you have the opportunity to do something like that? Not very often. So use it to your advantage, WWE. Don't break up Rey and Dominic Mysterio yet. I know some people, the heels at hearts, they want to see Dominic turn on Rey, and eventually one day he might. But it's way too early at this point. Dominic Mysterio is still inexperienced. He still needs to get seasoning. Have him tag up with his dad regularly. That's the way to learn. That's the way to get better. And he's already very good. So I think the feud will end tonight on Raw. But this match, again, knocked out of the park. I thought it was a great job. And I thought Rey and Dominic, and especially Dominic, I thought he did a fantastic job. Seth Rollins is the glue as well. He held this match together, and I thought Murphy did a great job too. So really enjoyed this one. And I'm enjoying seeing Dominic progress and work. So the main event of Payback was for the WWE Universal Championship no holds barred triple threat match. The Fiend defending the WWE Universal Championship against Braun Strowman and the returning Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns' first match inside of a WWE ring since March time, since prior to the pandemic, prior to WrestleMania and all of that sort of stuff. So The Fiend comes out. The Fiend makes his entrance first. He had no Fiend's title with him this time, thank God. That Fiend title just never did it for me. I'm a fan of custom championships. I really am. But that Fiend title just... Why would you have a title with someone's face on it? I didn't get that at all. So he had the Blue Universal Championship. Maybe he had it because he was going to drop it so quickly. It would have been a bit strange to have that picture of Reigns holding up the Fiend's face to close the show. Maybe it would have been quite a good shot. I don't know. But no Fiend title here, thank God. Inside the Thunderdome, man, the Fiend's entrance is just something else. You can criticize WWE for a lot of things, but production in terms of entrances, lasers, pyro, the look of it, the Fiend's entrance is just tailor-made for the Thunderdome. The production there is just absolutely fantastic. It is so good. So as the Fiend is making his entrance, Braun Strowman attacks the Fiend from behind out of nowhere, and the match starts. Braun Strowman hits a power slam for a 2 count. There's no Roman Reigns yet, and this would be the case for the majority of the match. The Fiend and Braun Strowman just beat the hell out of each other. The Fiend hits a Sister Abigail on Braun Strowman, gets a 2 count. Braun Strowman at this point, as I mentioned previously, Braun Strowman is a heel now. He's turned. And with that turn, he's changed his look up. He's got the bald head. He's got different ring gear on now. He doesn't have a shirt on anymore or anything like that. I think it looks good. I'm down for seeing people evolve and change things up. As long as it looks good. Not in the case of a Keith Lee, where he's wearing a skirt and a skin-tight top. I think the case of Braun Strowman here, I think he looks great. I think this new look offers him something different, and he's evolving, and it's the start of this new heel version of Braun Strowman and a different version of Braun Strowman. I think he looks very, very good. So they brawl to the outside. The Fiend hits a Uranagi on Braun Strowman through the announce table. Alexa Bliss, they cut back to Alexa Bliss a couple of times in this match, and Alexa Bliss is watching backstage. Now, she's got a braid in her hair in the same way that the Fiend has braids. So she's watching him, and the commentators referenced her a couple of times. The Fiend at this point... Now, I must say, actually, I was going to say this in a couple of seconds, because they go back to Alexa Bliss a second time, and this is when I thought this is where they're going. But I think it probably makes more sense here with the spot that happened next. So Alexa Bliss, she's watching the Fiend backstage. And obviously the Fiend attacked her several weeks ago on SmackDown. Everyone the Fiend touches, they change. Last week on SmackDown, we saw that Alexa Bliss had the Fiend braid in her hair. As soon as Nikki Cross referenced the Fiend, she went crazy, smashed their friendship mug that they drink coffee out of, right? And people are saying, oh, is Alexa Bliss turning heel? Is she changing character? She's absolutely changing her character. But she looks to me like she's got a bit of an infatuation for the Fiend. She's a little bit obsessed with the Fiend. Because you've got to remember, the Fiend locked in the mandible claw on Alexa Bliss. Everyone was horrified. You had those people on Twitter, those stans, saying that the Fiend should go to jail. Well, I hate to break it to you, but if it's on Fox, it's not real. And that's just in general. But the Fiend, the following week, goes to do it again, and Alexa Bliss, she sort of strokes the face of the Fiend, and the Fiend reacts, and there's a bit of tension there. So Alexa Bliss, as she's watching last night, she looks like she's interested in the Fiend. She's digging him. And she's got her hair tied up in those sort of pigtails, in the same way that a Harley Quinn would, from the Suicide Squad back in 2016, the iconic Harley Quinn look with Margot Robbie. And I think what they're going for here, and what they're trying to do here, is a Joker and Harley Quinn style relationship. That's what they're going to do, I think. And people might roll their eyes at it, but the Joker and Harley Quinn, their partnership is very, very popular. It was always popular, and I'm saying this as a fan of someone that reads DC Comics. It's always very, very popular in the comics, in the books. But when that Suicide Squad movie came out in 2016, it didn't make it made money, critically acclaimed. It was not. But one of the most popular things coming out of it certainly wasn't Jared Leto's Joker. But how often did you see on social media or Instagram or Halloween, any of that sort of stuff, everyone was Harley Quinn and the Joker. They love that relationship. People love the misfit relationship between Harley Quinn and the Joker. And I think that's what they're doing here. I think they're going for Alexa Bliss is going to be Harley Quinn. The Fiend is going to be the Joker. They're similar kind of characters, right? The Joker, this psychotic madman that after a while, because he's such a great villain you kind of love, even though he's sadistic. I think that's what they're doing here with The Fiend and Alexa Bliss. And to put a point on this, The Fiend, and he pulls out his giant mallet from under the ring. So he's full on the Joker now. He's got his giant mallet. Strowman throws an announcer's chair at The Fiend, which was shade of the Roman Reigns rivalry that he had with him. But at this point, there still is no Roman Reigns in the match. Strowman now has the mallet, but The Fiend blocks it. The Fiend then hits Strowman in the gut with the mallet. I think that's the first time we actually seen the mallet actually be physically used as a weapon. Usually he just pulls it out, but he actually hit Braun Strowman with it at that point. The Fiend then attacks Braun Strowman with the steel steps. You see Alexa Bliss still watching backstage, interested in The Fiend, playing with her hair. Braun Strowman and The Fiend then brawl up the ramp. Braun Strowman spears The Fiend off the stage through a table set up off the stage. And this is when we really start getting crazy. So you're thinking all of these spots are nuts. We then get back into the ring. Braun Strowman goes up to the top rope. There's a superplex by The Fiend. The ring implodes. Now, could have done without the whole ring imploding. It's been done to death at this point. Once was enough, I think, for the ring imploding. Twice, it was like, okay, nice throwback, but you're pushing it now. So, obviously, the Big Show and Brock Lesnar did it first. Iconic spot. Brilliant. Loved it. Then he did it with the Big Show and Mark Henry. It made sense. They're two giant men. It worked. It's kind of like, okay, you've done it twice now. Don't do it again. They did it again with the Big Show and Braun Strowman. The Big Show was the constant there. So you go, well, okay, fair enough. But Braun Strowman and The Fiend are really there enough to break the ring. You can have battle royals with 30 people in there. And apparently Braun Strowman and The Fiend are enough to break it. No, I didn't like that. But of course, The Fiend and Braun Strowman, they're down as the ring has exploded. Charles Robinson fell out of the ring. He took a bump. And then suddenly the music hits. Here comes Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman. Was a little disappointed that we didn't have new music for Roman Reigns here. We had the same logo, the same music. Everything was the same. And I do think eventually they might change it. It's a great opportunity, right? You've got a new version of Roman Reigns, a heel version, a different character. I mentioned there about Braun Strowman. He's changed his look. He's changed things up. I was hoping that Roman Reigns would do the same too. He might still do. It's absolutely a possibility. So don't get too attached to that, but I think it's a possibility he might. So Roman Reigns officially signs the contract. He's in the match. He has a chair in his hand. He drops the chair. He says he needs a ref. Paul Heyman brings out a referee. The Fiend kicks out at 2 twice. Reigns then beats the hell out of Braun Strowman with a steel chair for a 2 count. It was very much the shades of Steve Austin beating up The Rock at WrestleMania 17. Very much that style. But Braun Strowman kicks out. The Fiend then, he managed to get the mandible claw on Roman Reigns, but Roman then hits a low blow on The Fiend. Reigns then spears Strowman for the 3 count, and we have a new Universal Champion. And I've got to say, again, this is a bit like the Keith Lee Randy Orton match, where almost the match is kind of secondary to the story here. I don't really care about how great or not great the match was, because it's the result that's the big thing here. It's the story that's the most important thing here. New Universal Champion, Roman Reigns is new Universal Champion. I don't know about you, I'm pretty damn excited to see where this new heel Roman Reigns goes. I thought this finish was very well done. Was the match a cluster? Yeah, it was. It was a cluster. I thought they didn't need to do all of those spots. The announce table, the ring explodes, the dive off the stage, the mallet, the steel steps, all of it. They could have done without all of it. You know, they could have had a couple of those spots, but I thought the ring imploding, I thought was unnecessary. But it was to weaken The Fiend and Braun Strowman, right? So I guess that's why they did it. But I enjoyed the match. And most importantly, I enjoyed the story. I thought it was a perfect double turn. Roman is officially the heel. He won the match by a low blow, and he entered the match with 2 minutes to spare. He took his time. He wasn't a fair competitor here. He certainly wasn't a babyface. And who did he low blow? He low blowed The Fiend. Who do you feel that's robbed out of this? You feel that The Fiend has been robbed. So The Fiend is the face here, and I think it's going to be good. Now, in terms of the finish, in terms of Roman Reigns becoming the Universal Champion, everyone saw it coming, right? It's the opposite of SummerSlam. SummerSlam was you never saw it coming. This was the opposite. Everyone knew, I think, in their heart of hearts, that Roman Reigns was going to become the Universal Champion here. It had been reported for a while. But regardless, I thought it was very well done. It's exciting. It's different. Roman Reigns having an edge to his character is great. This version of Roman Reigns is the Roman Reigns that can be the centerpiece of the company. This version of Roman Reigns is the Roman Reigns that can really make money. This is the version of Roman Reigns that is going to be really popular. And look, he didn't even break a sweat really when he won the title. He didn't take his shirt off, by the way. And just ask how Keith Lee, how hard that is to get your shirt off and work. Vince McMahon, he loves shirts nowadays. And now, as I mentioned, was the match overbooked? Was there too many bells and whistles here? Yeah, I think there probably was. And the whole contract thing, I think that was just to ensure that everyone knows that Roman Reigns is the heel here. He took his time. He wasn't the dumb babyface. He didn't arrive till late. He waited for the guys to beat themselves up first. And the low blow is a heel move. The chair shots to Braun Strowman and The Fiend, that's Steve Austin style. Again, it's a throwback to WrestleMania 17 when Steve Austin turned heel. It's a double turn. I thought it was very, very well done, and I'm excited for SmackDown already. And as I mentioned at the start of this, how often can you say that? How often can you say, as soon as the pay-per-view went off the air, oh, I can't wait till SmackDown because I want to see what they do next. I haven't said that about WWE in just forever. Really, I haven't said that about WWE in such a long time, and it's absolutely true. When is the last time have you ever said, oh, I can't wait for SmackDown. I can't wait for SmackDown because I want to see what they do. I'm excited. I want to see this version of Roman Reigns. What's going to happen next? Are we going to see a true babyface Bray Wyatt, or is he going to be the same as The Fiend? And what's this relationship between Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman? I'm excited, and I haven't been able to say that about SmackDown and WWE for a long time. Now, I think if they're going to change Roman Reigns like they're doing, I would change him completely. Change the music, maybe. I don't think you should need to change the ring attire. I've seen some people say, oh, you should go back to wearing like trunks and tights. No, I don't think so. I don't think Roman Reigns looks cool like that. The whole point of this is to get, ironically, Roman Reigns over as a babyface. They want to have him be a cool babyface. How do you make a cool babyface? You make him a heel. You make him a badass. So that's exactly the right thing to do. So I think to do that, I think he needs to maybe change up his ring music and his logo and all of that sort of stuff. But I think the way he looked last night, I thought he looked great. I thought he looked cool. And, you know, let's do something different, right? Let's do something completely different. If we're going to go for a change, let's change. Now, Alexa was watching The Fiend in the match. Braun Strowman is different as well. He's a heel. You've got heel Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns, Universal Champion. There's a lot going on here. And there's a lot of story going on here. But I like it. This heel pairing, this heel Roman Reigns paired with Paul Heyman is already money. I was excited for Payback last night because of the Reigns-Heyman reveal on SmackDown Friday. And I'm already excited for SmackDown to see the next chapter. So credit to WWE. This feels big, this feels different, and it's very entertaining. And how often have you been able to say that about WWE? So enjoyed the match for what it was, but what I really enjoyed, a bit like the Keith Lee, Randy Orton situation again, was the story. And I enjoyed the outcome. And you know that this has been done well, because could you imagine in any other circumstance, The Fiend only being WWE Universal Champion for a week? People would lose their minds because they would be like, this is BS. He's a transitional champion. Why didn't you just keep Strowman as the champion and have him lose the bout here? But people don't care because the story's good. And that's always been the case. If the story's good, people will allow anything. If you're entertained, people will allow anything. And that's exactly the case here. So I enjoyed the match for what it was, but what I really enjoyed was the story, and Roman Reigns is the new WWE Universal Champion. So that was WWE Payback. What are your opinions on last night's show? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll be sure to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys on this channel. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button as well. It really just helps us out here on YouTube. Go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds here on YouTube. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now. Or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video, along with another video for you to watch. We're closing in on 800 subscribers now. So if you haven't already, please do subscribe. You can also follow us on our social media platforms. The handles are on the screen right now. The links are in the description box below. It's at 365Wrestle on Twitter and at WrestleNews365 on Facebook and Instagram. So be sure to give us a like or a follow there if you haven't already. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. And I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.